there it is, the lovely sounds of the old Barnes organ. Cranking the organ before we crank our hog later. It's the second balcony with Greg and Frank. We're coming at you early today because we were up super late last night watching a team in the Central Time Zone host a team from the Eastern Time Zone. And puck drop was at 8:54 p.m. Insane.
Okay. TNT's NHL coverage sucks ass. And also, greetings, listeners and viewers.
And TNT.
I'm sure you all read, well, if anybody's listening from TNT, good. You guys suck at your jobs. Get better at it. You can't tell me that every single guy sitting at that desk didn't know that there was no way in hell they were going to finish that first game in 2 hours. Yet they had the start of their first broadcast scheduled for 7. The second start was scheduled for 9. You cannot do that. It screws with the players' prep time. It screws with the fans in the arena. It's going to murder your TV ratings, which is the whole reason you're broadcasting games in the first place. Yeah. It's piss poor time management. And, you want to grow the game, man. You want to grow the game. You got to get eyes on screens, particularly young ones. And you can't do that shit where 9 o'clock puck drops. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we knew when we saw on the schedule, it said 8:30, and we all knew, well, it's going to be closer to 9 o'clock because, they didn't even come on the ice for pregame warmups until like 8:25. So it was like, it was a super long day.
In the locker room watching the game, wondering, okay, do we go yet? Do we go yet? Do we go yet?
Yeah, I mean,
the players know how much time it takes.
Yeah, and it's a super long day, and it's unfair to the fans in Chicago, and the Hawks have not had great attendance to start the season. They didn't even sell out the home opener, and their attendance is way down from what it was last season. Now, there's some other factors that go into that. 2 of their home games, were going on at the same time or directly after a Bears game, one of them at home, which is never a good thing. Another one was going up at the same time against a Chicago Cubs playoff baseball game. Not a good competition. So, and this is their second late weeknight start. They had the game, the last home game before the road trip was a 7:45 puck drop because of the stupid frozen frenzy nonsense. And, even that 15 minutes makes a difference. And I get you're trying to get as many games on your national broadcast as possible. Fine. Don't you think the casual NHL fan would have much rather enjoyed watching that game with Connor Bedard and Jack Hughes and Simone Nemec and all these young up-and-coming players too? The Devils, the best team in the East right now. The Blackhawks are turning a corner. They're fun to watch. Don't you think people would have wanted to watch that back-and-forth wide-open game as opposed to the freaking Rangers and Lightning, 2 teams that are past their prime, a bunch of aging old fart hockey players that don't like? Who would you rather watch, Connor Bedard versus Jack Hughes or JT Miller versus Anthony Cirelli? I mean, that's come on, give me a break. And that game sucked. It was a blowout. It was a garbage hockey game, and yet they got to keep that game on the whole time. You couldn't start the game at 8:30 and say, hey, we'll keep the game going in the New York and Tampa area. Everybody else, we're going to Chicago for the start of this game, which is actually going to be good.
And not to mention, Turner has like 15 channels plus a streaming service.
Right. True TV. They could flip it over. Like there's no need for it.
You could have started the Hawks on True TV and flipped them to TNT when the Rangers were done.
Right. And I know these things are scheduled in.
They can do it for hockey. They have the technology.
Yeah.
And as long as we're talking about the frozen frenzy, that's something else I want to get into. Who was the ignoramus who thought of doing that on a weeknight?
Well, it's the NHL. It's very on brand for them.
A great. I mean, we're getting into the time of year. College football's starting to wind down between regular season and bowl season. So you'd have a golden opportunity there to drop in a full slate of games on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And hey, Frozen Frenzy, wake up at 11 a.m., start your hockey day, and just stick with us all day. We'll give you hockey all day. That would be amazing. It would be so good for the sport.
You know, the best time would be that Saturday in between the NFC, AFC championship games and the Super Bowl when there was no football on. Or the Sunday after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The week after the Super Bowl. Football is done. It's over. Now, they can't do that this year because the Olympics are going to be starting up right about then.
Right.
But that's when you do it. Why are you doing it on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, whatever the hell it was, and 9 of your 16 games start at the same time?
Yeah.
It's stupid. I mean, the NHL, listen, we've both watched this league long enough to know that if there is a ball, the NHL is going to drop it.
Yes.
I mean, they are
no rake left unstepped upon.
Yeah, I was going to say, they are constantly the Sideshow Bob Simpsons rake gif. They are always just tripping over their own dick constantly. They can't wait to do it.
And I would be remiss if I did not note that you used the word olding, which I thought was great.
Yes.
Got to work that into the vernacular.
Sure. Olding, aging. That's a combination of old and aging.
I like to think I'm olding. Well, I do now.
I'm olding. Every second I'm awake, I'm olding.
Yeah. I can't change my name in the middle of this, can I? To olding.
I don't know.
I didn't know I can.
There you go. Olding fork. Perfect. Now that we've gotten our TNT gripe out of the way, you don't need to have the TNT moniker anymore.
Yeah.
They're not paying for a sponsorship here. We're not giving them any freebies.
Well, not now.
We're on way too early for them to sponsor anyway.
That's right.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and it's unfair again for the Hawks fans. It was their first game back from a road trip. A road trip that ended very well. Connor Bedard's playing the best hockey of his life. Spencer Knight's playing the best hockey of his life. You've got all these top prospects starting to look like real NHL players. Team hasn't been in town in 2 weeks, trying to get some excitement going, and it's an 8:53 puck drop on a Wednesday night. It's a bummer.
And here's the other thing that I was laughing about with all that mess was they just had the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and Duncan Keith's speech, you could have taken his entire speech and just run it as an ad for hockey.
Yeah.
All he did was talk about how great the game of hockey is. And he's right. And the speech was like just one of the best things. And it was just, to me, it was just this distillation of Duncan Keith. He never once mentioned any of his own achievements.
No. And
I
didn't expect him.
No, he didn't mention any of it. He talked about the players he got to play with. He talked about the teams he got to play on. He talked about his coaches, his parents, and now his son. And never like, hey, you know what? I was pretty good. I won a couple Norris trophies.
Pure class.
I don't know if it's a rule among sports writers, but I do know that 2 Norrises makes you an automatic Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
no one is in who doesn't. No one with 2 isn't in unless they're still playing.
Yeah, I mean that's hard to do, to be the best at your position for one season, yet multiple seasons. I mean, I know the Norris Trophy is it's not exactly the same as it used to be. The last few years has kind of been like, hey, which defenseman has the most points? Let's give him the award. But Duncan Keith was that, two-way defender. The offense was there, but he was never considered an offensive defenseman. He was
shoot the puck into everyone's shin pads.
Right. I mean, he was good in his own zone. I mean, as great as he was in his own zone, he was very good in the offensive zone, but you never considered him an offensive threat by any means. But he could do it. But he's like one of those last defense first defensemen to really win the Norris. I mean, if you looked at it the last couple of years, you've had Cale Makar because he's putting up 70, 80 points. You've got Quinn Hughes putting up 70, 80 points. Both are very good defensively, but they're known more for their offensive prowess. They gave it to Eric freaking Carlson because he scored 100 points. That's a great accomplishment for a defenseman, no doubt. But I mean, he hasn't played defense since 2011. I've said for years that there should be two defenseman awards: the Norris for the best actual defenseman, all around defenseman, and then you can have the Bobby Orr trophy given to the best offensive defenseman or the defenseman with the most points.
Yes, and I mean they've got the Selke for best defensive forward, have the Orr for best offensive defenseman.
Yeah, makes all the sense in the world.
We solved all the world's problems. See you next week.
There you go. I wonder if there'll be any new ones between now and then.
The Blackhawks were down 3 guys last night and still managed to salvage a point against a good Devils team. And it was mainly on the back of Spencer Knight. And, everybody's talking about Jeff Blashill and Blashill's system. And, I feel like the guy who's getting forgotten is Jimmy Waite. Jimmy Waite has done such a good job for so many years with whoever the Blackhawks have in net. And, Waite also is involved with what's going on in Rockford. And there's good goaltending in Rockford too. And, you look at a team like Edmonton where, they're kind of a dumpster fire at the moment. And a big part of it is because they're trying to run it back a third year with Skinner in the pipes. And everybody knows you're not going to win a Stanley Cup with Skinner in the pipes unless you go into the playoffs and Connor McDavid gets you 4 points a night. And, the Waite has been so good. First was his brother Stefan, but then Jimmy took over. But, yeah, Jimmy's been with the Hawks now, 11 years?
It's been a while. I mean, the Hawks have had one of the Waites as their goalie coach since before 2010. It's going on 20 years. We've had the Waite brothers here, and Jimmy is fantastic. And good old number 29, Jimmy Waite. It's just he's one of those guys that doesn't get nearly enough credit. And
even Adam Guyan said at some point he was in development camp and they worked with him, and that's been one of the big turnarounds in his season. So it's like everywhere in the Blackhawks organization, if you talk to Jimmy Waite, you become a better goalie. I'm pretty sure I've never played goaltender in my life. I'm pretty sure if I walked up to Jimmy Waite and shook his hand, I'd be a better goalie.
Yeah, for sure. And he's, we see him every day. He's out there every day at practice, and we're constantly working with these guys. And, maybe the fact that he is overlooked a lot is a good thing, because that means no one's going to come sniffing around trying to pry him away from the Blackhawks in any other kind of capacity. But, I mean, we love him here, but can you name another goalie coach in the NHL right now? So probably nobody outside of Chicago is aware of what he's doing, but it's no secret that, it really doesn't seem to matter who's in net. They're getting good results. Look at what he did with Arvid Soderblom.
I know.
The progress he made from 2 years ago to last season, and then this season he's even better than he was last year. Those are the type of things that, get you a job for life, which Jimmy Waite has with his team.
Yes. He's the Blackhawks goalie coach as long as he wants to be.
Yeah.
And
why would he want that for a long time?
they just signed Soderblom for 2 years, and you can't help but think at some point he's going to want to go somewhere and start. He's earned that.
Yeah.
And
you think?
truthfully, I don't think the Blackhawks would have to really fall out of the playoff picture to want to talk to Edmonton about Arvid Soderblom. But
well, I mean, if Drew Commesso keeps playing well, it's not like if you have a commodity in Arvid Soderblom and a team, that's going to be in the playoff hunt, regardless of where the Blackhawks are.
right.
If you trade Soderblom and get something at his highest value,
yeah,
and you swing in Drew Commesso to start one every 6 games, are you really losing that much, or is that kind of a lateral move?
And then, I mean, I'm pretty certain from what I've seen that Berezhnoi can handle starting in the AHL.
Sure, absolutely.
He's been good. He's been really good.
And you still have him. He's been good, and you have Mitchell Weeks who bounces back and forth. He's a fine AHL goalie. I don't think he's a prospect by any means, but
no.
he's won some games for you over the past couple of years. So, there. You got Guyan coming up. He's been incredible this year. He's going to play for Team USA, the college team that's going to the Spangler Cup over in Switzerland over Christmas. Yep. So that should be kind of fun to see him, a good old, Slovakian goalie playing for Team USA. But good for him. I mean, because he struggled last year.
Get these guys as much international competition as you want. You already know that the World Juniors, there's got to be Blackhawks all over the World Juniors this year.
Yeah, so, for sure.
These guys get their exposure.
The Sweden games are going to be ratings blockbusters here in Chicago. Everybody's going to want to watch Frondell, and you might have up to 3 guys on Team Canada. That's probably stretching it. I think Boisvert is a not for sure, but almost for sure.
Let's see how healthy he is. That's the other thing. Who's healthy and who's not.
Right, and he looks
Boisvert
to be healthy.
Boisvert was looking like a lock before he got hurt.
Right,
and he looks to be back now. He had a 4-assist game this past
4-assist game over the weekend. 3 of the 4 assists were primaries.
Yeah,
in a 5-4 win. So that's coming up big for your team. So, I mean, he's been hurt, and he still has 8 points in 9 games.
Yeah, and I was looking at the Elite Prospect page, and kids, if you want to follow along, that's where you follow along from, because that's we look at it pretty regularly.
I'm going to plug them too. I'm going to give them a free advertising here. Get the premium membership. I think it's like $11 a month. It's so worth it if you're following prospects, because you get access to their scouting reports and their deep dives, and you can play around with the stats a lot more. It is worth every penny.
Yeah. But I had a brain fart because it's Boisvert and Nestrassel are going to play each other in the bean pot. I was like, idiot, UMass isn't in the bean pot.
Because they're scared of them.
Yeah, right. Hey, expand the bean pot. Get UMass in there.
There you go. Kick out Northeastern. They haven't done anything in a while. Is there a punishment for making us think Dylan Segura was any good?
Bring in Providence, too.
Sure. Put a little mustard on it. When we talk about Canada World Juniors, Boisvert is got a good shot. I think if he continues to show that he's healthy, he'll probably make it. And then you have Vanacker.
Vanacker will be there for sure,
leading the OHL in goals. But I don't want to say for sure for anything, because if we've seen in the past couple of years, Team Canada they don't know. They pick terrible rosters sometimes. They don't.
Yeah.
When who they leave off last year? They didn't have Porter Martone
Nick Lardis.
They didn't have Lardis, and there was another top prospect that they left. They've left off some top prospects the last couple of years that were head scratchers. But they
And,
haven't
and
built in 2 years, so there's some pressure there.
yeah, I mean Nathan Bame is not one of the not one of the Canadian Golden Boys, but man, he is lighting it up in Kamloops. They got to give him a look. Although they can also, he'll probably get a shot next year too. So that's one of the things that
Yeah,
happens with World Juniors is they'll look at guys and say, okay, we got some guys here. This is their last year of doing it, and
yeah,
I think that's actually going to extend to the Olympics too. It's going to be depending on who's picking the team and what they're looking at. It's going to be hard for Bedard and Celebrini to make that team with all the veteran players who want to go.
yeah, and it's. I mean, as someone who will be rooting against Team Canada in the Olympics, I'm all for it. Sure, leave Celebrini and Bedard at home and bring Mark Stone and Brad Marchand. Go for it. I approve. But hey, if Celebrini and Bedard want to go, keep being 1-2 in points in the NHL. They can't ignore that. I mean, how do you leave both of the top two scorers in the league at home for the Olympics?
And they don't
on international ice. Those kids would dominate.
I know, and they don't even face each other until like a week before the Olympic break.
Right. Hopefully they get to. They only got to face each other once last year. Celebrini was hurt those first two games early in the season. It'd be fun to kind of that rivalry is kind of sort of picking up steam, but it's mostly through the fans. And it's kind of silly. I don't understand why people are hell bent on comparing the two. One has to be better than the other. Can't they both be great? I
mean, it'll be fun to have. It'll be fun if the next Crosby Ovechkin rivalry includes a Blackhawk.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And it's definitely a possibility. And the NHL wants to make it happen, but they have to play for something before they're good buddies. They spent all summer training together.
They need a playoff series.
Yeah, they need a Western Conference final and with something on the line, and all of a sudden they won't be as chummy as they used to be. And so that's why it doesn't feel that way right now. You had Gretzky and Lemieux. That really wasn't much of a rivalry between the two. It was more of a debate between the fans because they never played for anything important.
I don't even know if they had a playoff series when Gretzky was with the Rangers. I don't think they did.
If they did, it was at the tail end of those career, but I don't think they ever played in a playoff series because for the primes of their career, they were in opposite conferences.
And they never played in the final.
No. That was
Mario never got to the final until they started breaking the Oilers up.
Yeah. So that was more of a debate between the fans more than a rivalry between players.
Right.
Ovechkin and Crosby was definitely a rivalry because they played each other almost every year in the postseason for a while there. And they were
in the same division.
Right. And they were in direct competition for Hart trophies, for scoring titles, all that stuff. And because of once again, back comes the full circle, the NHL dropping another ball because of their stupid playoff format. They never got to play each other for a conference final. It was always in the second round, which was so stupid because a lot of those years they were the best two teams in the East, but because of the format, they had to play each other in the second round where, man, a Capitals Penguins Eastern Conference final while those two were in their primes. Oh, that's must-see TV.
Yeah, I mean, we were lucky. We had a couple years of Taves locking horns. Well, I loved when Taves would lock horns with Brian Kessler because they didn't have a particularly fondness for each other. They didn't like each other much at all. So that was always fun. And the same thing with, Taves and Backus only had like one playoff series. But Taves and Kopitar was just great hockey.
Yeah. Yeah, those two Kings series were incredible. The 2014 Western Conference final, probably the best as far as quality of hockey, that was the best playoff series of that run. Even though they lost it, that as far as pound for pound, best 7 games, that
Oh yeah.
no series was even close. I think the only series that you could put in the conversation was the 2015 Western Conference Final against the Ducks with Getzlaff and Perry, because that was the only one of those series where I thought the Blackhawks might be in trouble. Some of those other series where they fell behind 3-1, 3-2, you're like, they'll flip the switch, they'll be fine. But that Duck series was the only one where I was like, I don't know if they're going to do this one.
By the end of Game 5.
And Kessler was part of that too.
I know. But by the end of Game 5, because Kessler took the same moronic Vancouver strategy to Anaheim, which is we're just going to hit the Hawks. We're going to hit them every chance we get. Nobody can withstand that much hitting, even though in Vancouver, he watched the Blackhawks withstand that much hitting. Now, that being said, what would have been the greatest playoff series of the Blackhawks run would have been if Sharp had gotten the puck 6 inches higher.
Yeah.
And they sent Vancouver home after being down 3-0. That would have been epic.
Yeah. I mean, that was still a great series just for, how it all went down. Even that Game 7, the Hawks were down 1-0 and Taves scored late in the third.
Yeah,
and you thought, they're going to win. They're going to win this game. And then Q gave Chris Campoli a overtime shift, and that was the end of that.
Blackhawks legend Chris Campoli.
Put him right up there with Alex Gonzalez on guys I want to punch in the throat.
But I mean, last night they were able to salvage a point. There was no Dickinson again, no Nazar again, no Brokowski again. But Sam Lafferty drew in, and they brought up Landon Slaggert for the game. And they each had goals, which I thought was really nice because, first of all, I mean, Lafferty's been a pro's pro through
he's
night after night after night of being scratched. And when Slaggert got the call and he got his goal, it's like, well, that kind of makes sense because Landon Slaggert, I kind of see him having a Sam Lafferty kind of career. He's got to be a fourth line mucker with some speed who can occasionally get a big goal, but you're not looking to Landon Slaggert to be a guy who's going to put 20 in the net. That's not his game. And it was good to see them both step up, but again, it was Spencer Knight's game. The Blackhawks, you go to another website, hockeystatcards.com, go there and check out your game scores after every game. And you can see the Blackhawks are just getting absolutely horsed on possession.
Yeah.
And while the skaters are trying to figure it out, the goaltenders are bailing them out. And the question will be, there's this race, and the race is between the players figuring it out and figuring out how to do better with possession, how to, force the play more into the offensive zone, make more offense happen before the goaltending regresses. Because it's irrational to believe that the goaltending will stay this good all season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Spencer Knight, I don't see him falling off too much, but
he's really good.
Now,
but
is that sustainable? Probably not. But I mean, I still expect him to be close to a 9-10 save percentage for the season. I don't think that expectation is
no, but right
too
now
much to ask for. But you could argue last night that first Devils goal, the first Nemec goal, late in the second period was a softie, but I'm not going to slam the guy because he's made so many incredible saves. Yeah. I mean, the guy made back-to-back saves on breakaways on Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier in the same shift earlier in that period. So I'm not going to be mad at him if a couple squeak through that he probably should have.
And, the Devils had, 37 shots on goal, and then I think the Hawks blocked another 13. That's a lot of shots.
They never had the puck. The Devils' top
Yeah.
six was like watching the Harlem Globetrotters on ice. They were just passing it wherever they wanted to do. That's how they scored those 2 third period goals, is they were just passing it, winging it around, and all of a sudden it's like you talked about in the last episode, moving the puck in the zone when you have the power play causes people to get out of position. Well, that's what we saw on both of those goals. The Dawson Mercer goal, he got space because Connor Murphy just was caught going, oh my God, and he went around the net, and that's all the time they needed.
Yeah.
Jack Hughes is a wizard with the puck. He can put it wherever he wants. And they got that speed, and those top two, that their top six is I mean, I look at the Devils, and they've got the most points in the Eastern Conference for a reason, because they're built like a playoff team. Yeah, they have their dynamic forwards, they have their speed, but then they have, Timo Meyer, a dying breed, an old school power forward. Even Stefan Nason is a guy that, he's playing on their top six because he knows what to do: get to the net, disrupt guys. They've got good defenders. They were missing 3 of their top defenders last night. Pesci's been out, Hamilton's been out, Kovacevic has been out. So if they could just get their goaltending in order, Jake Allen has been their better goalie, their big money goalie who played last night, Jacob Markstrom, who, by the way, made an amazing pass on that overtime goal. If they can get him straightened out, they're a legit contender. I picked them to go to the Stanley Cup final before the season started. So, hopefully they make me look smarter than I am. And one last thing about last night's game. Simon Nemec is a guy that Blackhawk fans need to pay attention to as far as his developmental arc, because he was picked 2nd overall in 2022. And his first 2 years in the pros were mixed bag, some struggles. He spent some time in the AHL. He went back and forth. All of a sudden, in these last few games, he's figuring it out, and he's looking like the guy they took 2nd overall. Yep. The Blackhawks have a defenseman that was taken 2nd overall recently, and I think his progression arc is past where Nemec was at this point in his career. I mean, Artem Levshunov, every game gets better. Yeah, he gives you that heart attack moment every night, but then he makes those plays where you're like, that's the stuff right there. I mean, he made a play. He drew a penalty last night. He stole the puck and then shielded the puck with his body, and it drew a hooking penalty. That top power play unit has been really good since he got put on the, I'm not saying it's because of him, but I mean, he's got 4 assists since getting on that unit. So
yeah, he and Burakovsky went to that unit around the same time.
Right. So, he's improving. So, you see a guy like Nemec, who coming into this week had 5 career goals, and he's got 4 in his last 2 games. He tied the game on Monday late in the 3rd period against the Islanders, and of course had the hat trick last night. But that's the guy. That's more the norm when it comes to young defensemen. Not everybody is Cale Makar or Quinn Hughes or even Matthew Schaefer, who seems to have no problem stepping right into the NHL and being a dynamic player. Those are the exceptions to the rule. The progression arc of Nemec is more the norm, and that's the expectation we need to have with these young defenders. Korchinski's taken a while, and that's fine. Sam Rinzel is not, he's being a young defenseman. Started the season off really good, and he was pulled off the top pairing last night. It was Louis Crevier that got most of the minutes up there, and that's part of the luxury of playing the 7 defensemen. You can adjust as you go along. If one of your young defensemen is struggling, you pull on the leash a little bit and you shorten his minutes and you shelter him a bit. If one of your young defensemen is playing well, like Levshunov, you start increasing his time slowly. It's working so well right now.
And hopefully at some point he starts getting a few more defensive zone starts.
Yeah. I think we'll see it.
But
We're
that'll
starting to see
come.
it a little more.
Yeah.
Playing with Kaiser, you'll get that. But it's a very slow progression, but they're handling it so well. The coaching staff, it's been impressive to watch.
Yeah. One guy that I've noticed has been becoming much more invisible. You mentioned old school power forwards. Is Colton Dock has kind of slipped off a little bit. I mean, he's been, his role keeps changing, but he's just. I feel like he's not really asserting himself out there.
His biggest problem has been, his two biggest problems that have plagued him since becoming pro has been the staying on the ice. So
Mm-hmm.
far, so good that this year, but it's his consistency has been a problem. In Rockford, he'd have 2 weeks where you're like, oh wow, this kid is great, and then
Yeah.
where's he been? But you're right, he has been moving around a lot in the lineup. He spent a few games playing on the top line. He is not a top line player, but I get it. He was getting rewarded. Jeff Blashill's a huge fan of his.
Yeah.
I mean, he was super effective last night. He had 9 hits, so he was doing his job. I think,
Yeah.
Colton Dock's never going to be, a goal guy. He's never going to be a 20, 25 goal scorer. But if he could give you 10 to 12 and play good defense and hit people, he'll stay in this league a long time. But he's one of those guys that needs to have a really solid year this year from start to finish,
Oh
because
yeah. There
there's
are
guys
big guys
coming for that job.
Mm-hmm. We already mentioned Strassel, and Strassel could be Colton Dock with scoring.
Yeah. AJ Spellisy can do what Colton Dock does.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah,
faster.
Spellicy's a guy you might, talking about World Juniors, Spellicy's a guy you might see slip into the World Junior, into Team Canada.
Yeah, he's definitely a possibility. John Mustard's another guy that might sneak in the spot there. He's been playing real well.
Yeah.
But those are guys that are probably going to need a couple injuries along the way to help their case. But it's
unless they decide they want to have like a real banger line, or like a banger fourth line, in which case
right.
Spellicy's your guy. So we should probably crank some hogs. Talk about young Kevin Korchinski and his scoring. Because
he's got 10 assists through 13 games.
Yeah, he's doing really well down there.
Yeah, and he's been consistent. I'd like him to shoot the puck a little more, but he's definitely, his vision has been really good this year. He's been facilitating a lot in the offensive zone, so it's good to see. I think they're getting positive reviews from him. He's doing exactly what the team wants him to do. So it's positive.
Yeah. And if the Blackhawks start to falter, if that balance between hot goaltending, if the hot goaltending tapers off before the skaters' possession improves, then you'll see the Hawks slide out of playoff position, in which case you'll start to see Kyle Davidson getting more calls about Connor Murphy, about Matt Grelchek, and in those cases, there's going to be spots. There'll be a spot for Korchinski. There'll be a spot for Nolan Allen. One injury and Ethan Del Mastro, there's a spot for him too.
Yeah, for sure.
And one of the other things with minor leaguers is, you'll see a guy go on a hot streak. Nick Lardis was just unconscious for a while, and now he hasn't had a point in 5 games. And one of the things that I can't watch Rockford play, but my first thought is, well, I wonder if they've got him working on something, and also the fact that he's not on the line. Oliver Moore is not there.
Yeah, his pointless streak coincided when Oliver Moore got called up. Yep. I don't think that's a coincidence.
No, it's not. He's still out there with Brent Seney, but not having that one additional scoring threat in Oliver Moore, it making that line a lot easier to play against.
For sure. And yeah.
This is where you've talked about coaching the junior out of him. It's like, well, guess what? This is going to coach the junior out of him, because all of a sudden he can't just go out there and get 2 points a night anymore. He's going to have to figure out. He's going to have to make adjustments. He's going to have to figure it out. He's going to have to figure out how to get the puck into the back of the net again. And he will. I mean, he's done it his whole career. He's been good his whole career. But it's going to take the time to do that. And fortunately, because the Blackhawks' overarching philosophy with players coming out of junior and out of college has been give them time in Rockford before, don't just throw them up on center stage and say good luck. They've been giving these guys a shot in Rockford, and because of that, they can do a lot of adjustments there where it's easier to do than it is at the NHL level. I've talked about before, the game moves a little bit slower. You can react it's easier to react to things. It's easier to see things unfolding when it's coming at you at a slower speed. So a guy like Nick Lardis, he's not trying to do this with, he's not trying to do this like against the Devils flying in his face all night.
Yeah, and it's not a results-driven league. You can go 5 games without a point and still play on the top line and still play on the top power play unit. It's not going to affect your playing time at all.
Right.
Whereas if you're in the NHL and you're not scoring, you're not going to see the ice.
Right. And especially with a guy like Lardis, where everybody in the Blackhawks organization knows what they want out of Nick Lardis. And you're not going to get that out of Nick Lardis when he's down on the fourth line. And it's been interesting to see what's been going on with Anton Frandell over in Sweden, where that is a more results-driven league because he's playing with the big boys now, and you've seen him drop down to the third line and kind of move around. His role changes game to game depending on what he's doing, and he's responded, and he's back with Marcus Kruger on the top line. He's back to producing, and he maybe just, I don't know if he was just riding the high of being the kid playing with men, and that's why he was doing so well. And then he slipped down now. And I'm sure, we've talked about before that, Marcus Kruger is being his mentor. I'm sure Marcus Kruger is in constant contact with Kyle Davidson. I'm sure, Marcus is telling Kyle, okay, this kid's good, but.
Yeah. Marcus is auditioning for his future job as Blackhawks head of European scouting when he hangs up his skates.
I think at one point they thought about asking Marian Hossa to do it, but Marian's having too good a time.
Hossa doesn't need the gig. He married in the money.
Married him, and he played hockey in the money.
Yeah, no, he didn't need to play. Dude, the money he made playing hockey is chump change compared to his in-laws. Yeah. His in-laws have his yearly contract in their couch cushions.
Yeah. But yeah, Marian, it was fun seeing all the Blackhawks at Keith's induction ceremony, because some of those guys are living pretty well.
Yeah, some of those guys are enjoying retirement, that's for sure. It was cool to see
Ben Eager got some snappy hair plugs.
Yeah, Ben Eager was there. Dustin Bufflin, all of him was there. They got him out of a deer blind in northern Manitoba long enough
to
come
he
down.
Hunt too? I know he fishes.
I'm sure he does. I mean, come on.
What's funny is he and Bickle are. I said it's funny. I caught it. He and Bickle are both competitive fishermen. They have fishing teams, but I don't know that they've ever gone head to head. I don't know if they've ever been in the same competitions.
We should get that going. We should get a second balcony fish fest and have them to pull some smelt out of Montrose Harbor. See who gets them all. What's more Chicago than smelt fishing in Montrose Harbor?
Oh man, going around scooping up alewives to cut up for bait. When I was in high school, they used to stock Lake Michigan with Chinook salmon. I don't know if they still do or not, because there was a problem with lampreys in Lake Michigan. They found out that salmon killed lampreys. So great, we're going to stock the lake with salmon. Salmon will kill the lampreys. And the problem was that, Lake Michigan wasn't the salmon's natural habitat. So they'd get down into like Belmont Harbor and around there, and they didn't know to swim back north to spawn. So after Labor Day, you can use these things called snagging hooks, where these big lead hooks with these lead plugs with these 4 big hooks on them, and you'd cast it in the water and just reel, and you'd catch like the gill of a salmon, pull them in. And I had a seafood store on Montrose by like Clark Street, and I would catch salmon in the harbor, take it over there. They give me $5 a fish, which in the mid 70s was Fat City. And they probably said it was genuine Alaskan king salmon or something.
Wasn't your problem.
Yeah. Once I got those $5 a fish in my hot little hands, that's all I cared about.
Oh yeah.
One of my few actual legal hustles back then.
Legal, yes.
Legal. That'll be for Second Balcony After Dark.
Yes. That's for the OnlyFans page coming soon.
That's right. That's when we'll discuss the intricacies of hubcap procurement.
There you go. And we'll put all of our feet pictures up there as well.
Yeah.
Got to pay for those. Yeah, I think getting back to the Ice Hogs real quick, a lot of people, at least in my feed comments, were like, hey, how come Nick Lardis didn't get called up? Why is it Landon Slaggert? Well, he hasn't scored. He's got no points in 5 games. Let him work that out. And, for a game like last night, where it was a game time decision, Slaggert's a guy that's played here before. He's played in Blashill's system. He's dependable. He's not gonna feel. You don't want Nick Lardis making his NHL debut in a situation like that. No, that's not going to help him at all. And I don't think the injuries they're dealing with now. Burakovsky was an illness, so he should be okay for Saturday. The Hawks didn't practice today; they'll practice tomorrow, Friday. So we'll probably see him on the ice then. Jason Dickinson surely looks like he's going to be playing Saturday. He was a full participant in morning skate on Wednesday. I thought he was going to play against the Devils, but then said he wasn't going to play. And Nazar, they still considering him day to day, even though he hasn't been on the ice the last couple of days. He took the pregame skate in Detroit and then didn't play, didn't practice Tuesday, didn't skate on Wednesday. So we'll see how he feels. Maybe, hopefully he's on the ice tomorrow. But if you get Burakovsky and Dickinson back, then, when Nick Lardis gets called up, it's going to be to stay here. They don't want to bring him up here for a game or two and send him back. They want
he's getting at least 20 games.
Yeah, they want him to be like Nazar last year. You call him up to keep him up.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to send him down because he's completely lost, fine. But the idea is to get him here so he could stay here. And right now, that's not going to happen. It's too crowded of a roster.
Yeah, I mean, they brought up Moore. Moore is here to stay. Again, unless he just falls apart. But it was the same thing. They're not going to bounce Moore back and forth. Moore's not a guy for the shuttle. Slaggert's a guy, like I said, I could see him having an NHL career, kind of like a Sam Lafferty type of player.
Yeah. That's
the guy you don't have. I mean, you like him. You like what he brings to the team. But he's also the type of guy where he can do it for a game or two in Chicago, go back to Rockford until you need him again. Depending on what happens at the deadline, maybe at that point he gets full burn. But for now,
he's a guy. He's a guy. He's likable, good kid. I talked to him a few times when he was still playing at Notre Dame. Great kid. Hell of a mustache he's got going on for November. But he's a guy. And if he's not good enough to be on your NHL roster, that means you have a pretty good NHL roster.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at it the same way Mackenzie Entwistle.
Mm-hmm.
Great kid. Loved covering him. Loved talking to him. He was a good sport when we had our little bit about him being an orphan that we told him about, and he enjoyed it. Like, great kid.
Mm-hmm.
Any NHL player with the Blackhawks organization signs with the Panthers organization hasn't sniffed the NHL.
Yeah.
So it just tells you, like, if a guy like Landon Slaggert isn't good enough to make your NHL roster on a consistent basis, that's not a bad thing. That means you have a pretty good NHL team.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Lardis will be here. Give it time.
Yeah, there's no reason to rush. I mean, don't, people want to hurry. This team is still in the infancy stages of the rebuild. Yes, these first month or so of the season has been a lot of fun. Has it changed the expectations? I think so. Last night people were pissed because they felt they could have had 2 points. That's good to have that feeling again. It's good to have expectations. They should win the next 2 games at least. You got Toronto coming in, who is not a great team, and they're likely not going to have Austin Matthews. You should win that game.
Yeah.
And then the Flames come into town on Tuesday night, who you've already beat once this season, who is, one of the bottom teams in the Western Conference. Get those 2 games, 4 points there, you're looking good. Like, I think we're getting to the point where, do I think the Blackhawks are going to make the Stanley Cup playoffs? No. Do I think they can be in the conversation and be in the position to compete for one of those wild card spots into late March, early April?
Yeah.
At this point, sure, why not? We're almost to American Thanksgiving, and we know that's kind of like a big marker for the NHL season. What is it? 72% of the teams that are in a playoff spot at American Thanksgiving make the playoffs, and we're almost there.
And even if you're just out at that point, you're still kind of with the haves. You have your haves and your have-nots at that point. And let's face it, if at the beginning of the season, neither you nor I had grand expectations for the Hawks. We saw them, if not bottom 5, certainly bottom 10. And if you kind of get the feeling that, okay, if they finished between bottom 5 and bottom 10 now, after what they've done so far this year, it would be a disappointment.
Yeah. If they finish with less than 90
much better
points,
team than we thought they'd be.
If they finish with below 90 points, you're probably going to be like, man, they let one get away.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the year, we were all like, hey, man, 75 points would be awesome. That would be a 15-point increase. They'd be trending in the right direction. I think if they finish with 75 points now, you'd be like, what happened?
Yeah. Yeah, you're calling for heads. Either that or there's just a rash of injuries and I don't see Kyle Davidson really having that big a fire sale this year.
No.
Sure, he's listening on Connor Murphy. Sure, he'll listen on Matt Grelchik, but
yeah, I mean, maybe a Jason Dickinson if he could stay healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to make a decision. Ben Pope wrote about it today for the Sun-Times. Dickinson and Ilya Mikheyev are going to be free agents at the end of the year. They're kind of the same thing. Which one do you keep? I mean, it's me,
Dickinson wins faceoffs.
Yeah, but Dickinson also is hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Mikheyev is a beast. Right now, I keep if I have to choose between the two, I keep Mikheyev.
And before we wrap up, we should probably just take a minute. One of the great hockey writers of all time passed away today, Larry Brooks. I mean, living in New York for over a quarter of a century, we always kind of had our laughs about Brooksy, because Brooksy, every team has that guy where when the GM wants something to leak, he gives it to a writer. You pretty much know, like when Theo Epstein was here, you knew who his mark was, and you knew who Stan Bowman's mark was, and it didn't matter who was general manager of going back to before Phil Esposito, go back to Emile Francis, and it was just always Brooksy. Brooksy was the guy who was just always the mark. But Brooksy wrote a really good book about the 92-93 Rangers, where the team just fell apart under Roger Nielsen. And there was open revolt in the clubhouse. And it was just a great book that he wrote. And, he wrote about hockey for 40 years? At least
50.
Yeah.
He probably started in the 70s. So you're talking 50 years.
Long
time hockey guy.
As a kid reading hockey news, you always knew you were going to get Brooksy and the Maven every week in the hockey news. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, you always could tell how important somebody is to people when they pass. And you just looked at, social media today, and, it was all the top writers of this generation had a thought. These guys inspire, the next generation of guys. There wouldn't be a Chris Johnston or an Elliot Friedman without guys like Larry Brooks, for sure. And then those guys are now the top guys today, but that's what Brooksy was, before him and Bob McKenzie and
Stan Fischler.
Yeah. And I always forget the guy who's the longtime guy out of Pittsburgh. He still shows up every once in a while. I can't think of it.
And you had Tim Sassone in Chicago for years.
Yeah. He was as good as it got here for a long time. When there wasn't a lot of hockey coverage. Yeah. Not that there's a ton today, but there's a lot more today than there was when I was a kid. That's for sure.
Well, now you have mediocre white guys with podcasts.
Right. Thank God. I'd have to go get a real job without that. Yeah.
I know.
No, I mean, like,
just help my wife make dinner.
I mean, Sassone was a guy, for me growing up. Brian Hanley was another guy. Covered a lot of those 90s teams that definitely didn't get a lot of press, but those were some of the top guys. I always appreciated a Steve Rosenblum because he would talk hockey every once in a while. He knew what he was talking about. If you got Barry Rosner out of Wrigley Field long enough, he could string together a few solid hockey thoughts.
Yeah, and it was funny when I know I said it was funny again. When we had hockey night, one of the kind of unwritten rules, we almost never went after writers. We did on a couple of occasions.
When they deserve it.
Well, I think it might have been like the 10th time Barry Rosner brought up Trent Yanni not being coach of the Hawks anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, Barry.
Do you remember how many times during the cup runs, David Hall wrote the "Why didn't the Blackhawks keep Anthony Niemi" story? That was his go-to hockey piece. Oh, they want me to write a hockey column. I better bitch about Anthony Niemi again because that's all I know.
No, one of my favorite David Hall moments was after they won the cup in 2010, and they had the big salary cap pinch because Taves got the bonus for winning the Conn Smythe. And Hall was asking Dale Talon, because Dale was still around at that point. I can't remember if it was Dale or Scotty Bowman, but one of the really old time hockey guys. And he's like, well, can't you, get Taves, sit down with Taves and restructure his contract? And said, well, I don't really have time right now to sit here and explain the intricacies of the NHL salary cap. Which is a very elaborate way of saying, come on.
Yeah, it's not the NFL, dude. Go back to writing about the Bears.
Yeah, so. All right, so I think we've covered everything. I'm doing the Midwestern knee slap. Whoa, time to go.
Yeah, look at that. Gotta get up for that thing in the morning.
Yeah, I'm gonna start doing that from now on at the 59-minute mark. Just
there you go. Just do the old stretch. My dogs are barking.
Well, we
All right.
will see you down the road a piece.
Yes, we will.
Thank you for listening. Hit the subscribe button. We always tell you at the end. If you made it this far, you've already hit the subscribe button.
Yeah, we got to do that at the beginning. I got to do better at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, subscribe, like, follow, 5-star reviews, all that fun stuff. Tell a friend. Tell a friend. Tell an enemy. Yeah. Tell anybody. Tell random people on the bus to listen to us. Yeah. We appreciate it. We'll try. We'll get back to you at some point next week. Maybe a guest next week. Maybe not. See if we can get some scheduling working out. And then we'll see you guys back up here in the second balcony through the smoke and the water on the floor. And I did air quotes for those not watching the YouTube, but we'll be back up here real soon before you know
various fauna.
Yes. All right, time to let the organ play us away. We'll see you next time, everybody.